Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour. It's the middle of Super Bowl week, which means lots of rumors coming out on Radio Row, and who better to talk about it than one of our own JJ stands, Nick Miller. Thanks for hopping in this week. I know we kind of just threw this thing together at the last minute. We didn't really have anything planned for content this week, but a lot kind of dropped yesterday on the rumors. So let's talk about it. I got a clip I can share, but before we dive into that, tell me how you're feeling right now about JJ McCarthy in Minnesota.
I'm still loving JJ McCarthy, Minnesota, and yeah, it's Super Bowl week, which means that we're so used to talking about the offseason. Hopefully, with JJ being the prince that is the prince that is promised, that will change over the next few years. But yeah, no, I'm excited to dive into the interviews that he did yesterday. I think he did a few of them, but there's a few nuggets that I think that he dropped that were pretty interesting and kind of telling about maybe where things stand in this process, and maybe we can glean some deductions about what that might mean for the rest of the offseason. But yeah, if you have some clips, let's run it and then let's talk about it. I know what you told me that you'll be hearing this for the first time.
Yeah, well, yeah, this one for sure I will be. So you'll get my raw feedback here. But I did see a couple quotes yesterday that I thought were funny from JJ. One was that he feels like he's like trapped in a cage.
Oh yeah, right. Yes, a caged animal that's running, that's now running uphill, and I'm just like, who says that? I mean, this guy is obviously a very interesting.
Our franchise quarterback says that, but let's
that's right.
Let's listen in on what he had to say about kind of earning his spot as quarterback next year, with or without Sam Darnold in the picture.
You're a control freak, otherwise you wouldn't be in the position you're in right now. How does that all sit with you, JJ?
It's just all I can ask for is a fair opportunity. That's the one thing that, I feel like everybody's given, and it's fundamental. And, when money gets involved, things get complicated, and, reps get skewed, and there's different things that come into the whole, political world that everyone talks about. But, I really just have to focus on controlling what I can control. My feelings don't matter. Like, I'm not getting any grace. There's no sympathy. Like, this is the big leagues. And just being able to, approach it with just steadfast, narrow, tunnel vision on just the task at hand, which is that workout that day, that film study, that extra, little thing I'm going to do for my fiance that day, and just really just staying in the moment, because, that gives me the most peace of mind through all this.
Hot damn, man. If that ain't what you want to hear from your franchise quarterback, I don't know what it is, man. If I'm Kevin O'Connell right now, I'm just grinning from ear to ear.
He probably wants to run through a brick wall for JJ. Do the inverse here.
He answered that perfectly, by the way, considering everything going on with the Sam Darnold rumors. Like, that's how you want your leader to navigate those conversations. I forget who it was. It was a couple years ago. Hell, it might have even been Jefferson. But there was somebody who desperately needed some media training when it came to like off-season kind of conversation. JJ he crushed that one right there.
Yeah, he definitely sounds like the polished. I went to QB CEO school, where he's dropping some interesting and mature thoughts, but not without giving really anything away about the off-season plan. So yeah, that was perfect. So what did you think about what he said about the fair opportunity?
Yeah, that feels weird that he said that, because my mind immediately goes, maybe this isn't the right spot for it, but does he feel like he wasn't getting a fair opportunity maybe last offseason before his injury took place? It also makes me think, like, is there something else that we're not considering?
Yeah, well, the way I read it was, if you add in the context of the next line where he's talking about where money can influence reps and politics and stuff like that, I think he's 100% right. If they bring back Sam Darnold, either on the franchise tag or any sort of significant deal where he's going to have to make 30+ million, per year, presumably, there's going to be a market for that. That's the only way he's back with the Vikings. Is that if he's making that, he's the presumed starter. You're not paying a guy $30 to $40 million to sit on your bench, and so that's part of it. I mean, if JJ's healthy, he also said during his interview cycle yesterday that he'll be ready for OTAs, and I think he was counting down exactly 67 days. Like he knew the amount of days until then, which is awesome. But if he is going to have a fair opportunity, then you can't be handing the job to Sam Darnold due to money. And so, I mean, one of those things has to bend there, or the Vikings have to be willing to go to JJ and say, hey, even though you're healthy, even though you did all this stuff behind the scenes, even though Kevin O'Connell said that you're, our franchise quarterback, that, sorry, Sam Darnold's going to be our starter next year, and you're just going to have to deal and you're going to have to sit. And, I don't know how that's going to sit well with a guy who said that, he feels like a caged animal at this point.
Well, yeah, we talked about it with Ben Gessling last week on the pod. Like, do you think that they feel comfortable bringing back Darnold at like a certain cap hit? And he kind of said, like, yeah, I think they would be okay with that, which is that's concerning for me as a fan. But I get it. Like, I think in you, we never touched on this topic, and I don't want to make it sound like I want Darnold to come back. Because I do think it's best to just part. But let's look at it from like a different lens, like from Kwesi's lens. Quarterbacks are hard to get. Franchise quarterbacks, whatever. There's maybe a possibility that you just resurrected a guy who, what did he go, number 3 overall, into what could be a franchise quarterback. And you, as much as we want to believe that JJ McCarthy is this next guy, like, and he will be better. And I would say that most traits and analytically and everything that we know about JJ McCarthy would suggest that he probably is going to be better, but there is a chance that he's not. Do you just let a guy like Darnold, who did look at times MVP worthy, out the door? Because like, as much as you're like putting all your eggs in JJ McCarthy's basket for your job, essentially, the same could be said about letting Darnold out the door. Like if he goes out and continues to crush it and JJ McCarthy starts to struggle or starts slow, I don't know, man. That's a tough decision. I don't think it's as black and white as people want to make it seem.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand that. I think that the phrase that a lot of people were saying, that a lot of fans were saying maybe before the playoff game was a bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush, right? That's kind of the
Sure.
old saying that, you have Sam Darnold, he's probably a above average starter that's is capable of leading a team that went to 14 games. He had success with these weapons already here, and if you could add 1 or 2 pieces, who knows what could happen, right? If you add it into the interior offensive line, I mean, I see the logic. I mean, I think the issue is, what you have or we don't necessarily. I mean, I'm a huge JJ stan, as everyone knows, but I don't fully know what we have on the field from the NFL level. I've seen clips from training camp, and we watched the one preseason game, and that's about it. The Vikings know. Kevin O'Connell knows, like, how much does he have a mastery of the playbook, right? How well does he interact with his teammates? Like, how exactly did he look relative to what expectations were in training camp in that preseason game? Based upon what Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell have said, about their statements of Kwesi being thrilled with him, Kevin O'Connell being thrilled with him, Kevin O'Connell calling him our franchise quarterback, it sounds like he's doing, those are just, statements to build him up. It sounds like if you take them on somewhat face value, it sounds like they love where he's at. And so the question isn't, you only can start one quarterback, right? So, is the resources that you are putting in to keep Sam, make the team that much better than JJ McCarthy plus the other $40 million of resources that you could put in instead of paying Sam, right? And so that's always been, part of the calculation is like, is it JJ McCarthy and let's just say it's 23 months. Let's say it's JJ McCarthy and Trey Smith, or Sam Darnold, with JJ on the bench, right? Yeah. So like, you gotta think through, like, how much is the difference between Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy, and the other calculation is Sam Darnold had just not a good season for just Sam Darnold, but for anyone. Like chances are he's going to regress. Like chances of him being able to repeat that season, exactly how it is, win 14 games. Analytics said they were probably closer to, a 10 or 11, win team, but they outperformed and scored 14 games. And so, like, let's say Sam Darnold just comes down just a little bit. Now how do you rate that relative to JJ McCarthy and then say like a Trey Smith, right? So I think that I understand trying to keep the known quantity, but you've already taken the risk on JJ McCarthy, taking him the highest quarterback in Vikings history. Presumably you love the guy. He's mature beyond his years, and what you see, like, the complete team was ready to say that this is our franchise guy. As is. Like, I don't see anything that has changed that scenario, for you. And so, like, I understand where people are coming from, but you also have to ask, and I'm going to go on a mini rant here. I might ask you some questions in return, because this has been bothering me recently. Because I think a lot of people have been talking about Sam Darnold coming back, but they haven't been talking about the practical reality of this. So let me throw a few scenarios, and you tell me how the situation goes. Okay,
let's go.
So we're in the middle of August. Sam Darnold's back. Let's say he's been on the franchise tag. JJ McCarthy is fully healthy, and they're gunning back and forth, and they look like they're both doing great. It looks like there's real quarterback competition, but we know Sam Darnold is the presumed starter because he's making $40 million. How do you feel?
Money.
How do you feel about that situation? Like, if JJ McCarthy looks really good in training camp, like he did this past year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a battle between Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell, right? Because it's like KOC gets final say on who is starting on the field, but Kwesi's building the roster for KOC, and so it's like, for me, I mean, it's an easy solution, right? I'm giving the keys to the young kid, and you got to let it go. You got to let him try. Eventually, like, we can't just keep protecting JJ McCarthy. Like, he's got to get on the field at some point. And so, especially in your scenario where it's a franchise tag, like, yeah, I hate that we're paying $40 million or whatever it's going to be for Sam Darnold potentially to be a backup. But at the same time, we just paid $28 million for Kirk Cousins not to be on our roster last year. And so that's a little bit easier for me to swallow. Not saying it's the best process. Like, I don't think going forward with that path is smart in any regard, especially because we've seen Kevin O'Connell do wonders with subpar talent, right? Like, he's made Nick Mullins look good. He's made Josh Dobbs look good. Jaron Hall had a few good drives. I won't say he had any good games, but
right.
And even Sam Darnold, like, we've seen him resurrect and like raise the elevation of his quarterback play, and Sam Darnold too, and Kirk Cousins. So in your scenario, I'm still rolling with JJ. I mean, he would have to just look abysmal, right, and just completely lost out there for me not to want to hand the keys over. Like, I think personally.
Yeah, I'm just thinking here, like, okay, they made the call to pay Sam in this scenario, pay Sam Darnold $40 million. I mean, Ziggy Wilf, or more likely Mark Wilf, calling down in the scenario and saying, "Why'd you just waste $40 million of my dollars?"
Yes.
And then we get to week one and the interior offensive line isn't it good? Like, there's going to be immense pressure, to start Sam Darnold, if you're paying him $40 million. And then, okay, here's my next thing. Okay, we get to week 3 and we're playing, the Eagles or something, which I think is on our schedule next year. And Sam Darnold is getting interior pressure, despite, because we weren't able to fix the interior offensive line as well as we wanted to, because we're paying him $40 million. He gets interior pressure and he has one of those games that looks like, the last 2 games we saw him this year. And then, okay, he just took a 12-yard sack. All right, what are fans going to be doing in that scenario? Oh, he just threw an interception. What are fans going to be doing in that scenario? Like, how, are the Vikings prepared to just ride the Sam Darnold wave, in good games and bad games, when JJ McCarthy is healthy and standing over there on the sideline?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, when you look back at this last season, when we played the Jaguars, when we played the Titans, and Darnold didn't look great, right? Like, he did have a rough patch during the season. I think it's easy to forget it when we had all those fun games where he was, lighting up the Packers and doing all that stuff. But, like, let's not be shocked of how, like, these last 2 games of the season went, because there were signs throughout the year that, like, okay, there's some flaws in his game. It's just a matter of who's going to exploit them. If you go into a scenario like you just talked about, I mean, yeah, the heat's going to be on to put McCarthy in. Like, and I don't know, and they won't make a decision rooted in just this decision, but I don't know if you want that distraction, like, around your team. And that's the whole, I mean, that's any rookie quarterback, right? Like, once you have the shiny new toy, like, the leash for your starters is so much shorter. I mean, if the Falcons don't draft Michael Penix this year, Kirk Cousins rides out the season, no matter how much he's struggling. And I commend the Falcons, right? Like, they did what a lot of teams wouldn't do, which is bench your, $40 million quarterback. Like, that takes a lot of guts. But at the end of the day, your job is to win football games. And if the person out there isn't doing that, then you have to pull the trigger. So, it's easy for us to sit here, though, and be like, yeah, I'm putting McCarthy in.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I think, you and I are pretty ear to the ground. It's been hard pressed to find, many fans that think the smart decision is to bring back Darnold and, start McCarthy. And so if you do bring back Darnold and he doesn't play well, and they invested all this money and time and resources in Darnold when that could have went to JJ, I don't think the reaction is going to be very kind to this front office and even coaching staff for making that decision when it's not even like hindsight being 2020. It was like, we all saw the writing on the wall, right? So this is all what we're saying now, and we can see these scenarios playing out now. And so that's, I mean, between the investment and where that money could go differently, the fact that JJ seems ready, all the praise that they've said about him, trying to avoid, these scenarios, and the fact that you already, as a franchise, already bought in to JJ McCarthy, it just seems so difficult to see them actually wanting to bring Sam back and pay him a significant amount of money. Now, I mean, everyone's incentivized to not be the case. JJ McCarthy, there's no reason for JJ McCarthy to come out there and Rich Eisen yesterday and say, KOC told me I'm QB1. Like, no, there was 0% chance of that happening. Could you
imagine, though, if he did? Oh my gosh.
Well, it would just blow up their plans completely, and there'd be no salvageable way for them to potentially get any value out of a tag and trade or something for Darnold. So, I mean, I think, our reporters and stuff are going to hedge and things like that. And they're probably getting information from the Vikings, and honestly, Darnold's camp's incentivized of this too, because if there is let's say it's the Steelers and Raiders that are interested in him, well, he can always go to them in free agency and say, well, we really love playing for the Vikings, and they're prepared to offer us this or something like that. Yeah. So in order to get Sam to leave, you really need to step up your game and your guarantees to get him out the door. So incentivize the Vikings, incentivize Darnold's team is incentivized to it. The media, frankly, quarterback talk is sexy, and he's the top quarterback in free agency. This quarterback draft class isn't the best, and so the media is incentivized to keep this story going. Everyone is incentivized
what I think
have this to be a story, and have this drag out all the way through next month.
What I think is interesting is, like, and I'm gonna try to play a clip here. We'll see if it works. Is that throughout this offseason so far, it's only been not even a month yet, but we've heard reports that's like, Albert Breer yesterday, JJ McCarthy is healthy, he's ready, the Vikings, are all on board. But the one person that consistently seems to come back and say, he almost like hears that there's JJ steam and then comes with Darnold steam. So you got Tom Pelissero over here saying, the Vikings could actually look at the conversations are fluid. He could come back. And what I found interesting in Pelissero's report yesterday actually was that when Kevin O'Connell spoke about those last 2 games of Sam Darnold, he was like, you can't look at those 2 games and make a decision off of that. It's got to be the whole picture. But then you got Tom Pelissero being like, those 2 games could benefit the Vikings, and they could take that to the table in contract negotiations to get a lesser multi-year deal. I don't know. It's just a lot of conflicting information going on in the Darnold JJ camp, and it's just going to continue for weeks to come here.
Yeah, no, I did find that interesting, and then I think that his line as well, that I think he's brought up in multiple segments on this topic before. He's like, there's no precedent for a rookie quarterback missing his entire first year and then coming back and playing. And I'm just like, isn't that every rookie quarterback though that comes in that starts from whether it be Jaden Daniels or
what's the difference if you're sitting at college or sitting in the? If anything, it's more beneficial to be in the locker room that you're going to play in.
Yeah, presumably you've already learned the playbook. You already have familiarity with the coaching staff, with the team. You've traveled. You've experienced the NFL season, but without having to worry about the on-field stuff. It's all been mental. And so that kind of line. I mean, I love Tom. I love Tom to death, but that kind of line makes me think that he's getting some suggestions from TCO and Egan about some things to say, to talk about, why there might be doubts about JJ and why the Vikings might really need Sam, and you got to really convince the Vikings that they don't need Sam anymore. So, I mean, it's all part of the game. It's all part of this lying season. This time of year, Tom is obviously very plugged in at TCO. And that's a double-edged sword. Sometimes he gets the scoop, and that also might mean sometimes he is, that scoop is fed a bunch of not so great or accurate information, and so it's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So it is interesting. I of course always respect what Tom Pelissero has to say, but that's just a report that I'm not buying. It doesn't pass the smell test.
Well, there will be a lot more reports that we can dive into, and who knows, maybe we can ask him ourselves eventually in the coming weeks. But I know we talked about maybe discussing the Ed Ingram contract situation. So let's dive onto that quick, and then we can call it.
Yeah. So the NFL a few years ago, I think it was in the new CBA, introduced this new thing called proven performance escalators, which basically means at the end of the rookie scale deal, if you've accomplished a few different criteria, you get a elevated salary bump heading into your 4th year of your rookie deal. It's been kind of fascinating over the years that in some cases this has become a detriment for players because they've reached these thresholds, but then now they make them priced out for the team. We've seen it in the past where a few players get cut or released because of that. And Over the Cap is a fantastic resource. It's my favorite resource for looking at salary cap stuff. Has a page on performance escalators, and so getting down into the weeds just briefly, there are a few levels of the way that this works, a few different escalators that you can reach. And Ed Ingram's on the first escalator, so he's played at least 60% of the team snaps in the first 2 seasons, or you only need 2 out of 3, but he played 60% of the 2 first seasons with the Vikings. And because of that, he gets a bump up to his original round tender for restricted free agent. So this is really complicated salary cap stuff. But basically what that means, since he was a 2nd round pick, his base salary for this year is going to be $5.2 million, which is just, it's starter level money for a guard when clearly, since they benched him last year, I don't think that they plan on locking him into one of those starting roles, especially how much Kevin O'Connell has talked about wanting to upgrade the interior of the offensive line. So he's a clear candidate to either get a pay cut if he's willing to negotiate that, or just get straight cut. And that's a pretty bad look for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's 2022 draft class, which is already pretty bad. But when it comes to improving this team, I don't think you can just lean in to past mistakes. So I'm very much expecting Ed Ingram to be cut in the coming weeks.
Ooh, call your shot. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
We'll pay close attention to that to see if it comes to fruition. I think we'll table the Cooper Cup conversation. I don't
Okay,
think that there's
yeah.
going to be any closure on that in the next
Mhm.
week until we record again. So we can press pause on that. But a good episode to talk about our future franchise quarterback JJ McCarthy and all the rumors that come along with that. So we have another episode dropping on Friday, or at least this weekend. I think Jack is going to do another film breakdown talking about Brian Flores' defense.
Awesome.
And then we got some more guests coming down the pipe. So we got Matthew Collar, Darren Wolfson, a few others. Alec Lewis may be down the line in March. A lot of content coming your way. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We'll keep bringing some content to you. And yeah, oh wait, before we go, I got to work on my endings. I'm not very good at them, but Super Bowl prediction, go.
I think it's hard to bet against the Kansas City Taylor Swifts. No, I mean, I think the Eagles have a really good team. I think Saquon is probably going to have a really good game, but it's just the model we've seen so many times of Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones and Travis Kelce just coming up in those big moments and making a play. I just can't see myself betting against them in the Super Bowl. So how about you?
I'm going Chiefs. I just can't stand. I can't have the Eagles win again. I just can't do it.
Yeah, no, that fan base has kind of ruined it for the Vikings fans.
Well, and I think too, when you think about the Chiefs, like, yeah, everyone's annoyed with them, and the Taylor Swift thing doesn't help, and the Kelce's are probably getting too much airtime, but it's a dynasty. We're watching a dynasty right in front of our eyes. Like, it's the new age New England Patriots. So it's like, yeah, I hate that they win, but as a football fan, like, this is damn impressive. And so if it's against the Eagles, I'll root for them.
We'll just have to have JJ McCarthy and the Vikings come and take their throne.
Take the throne away. Remember, Sam Darnold's our Alex Smith, and JJ McCarthy is our Patrick Mahomes, and I'll leave it there. So until next time, Skol Vikings.